writer in England called Peter Ackroyd, who wrote a book called Hawksmoor, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, about churches designed by an architect who was a pupil of Christopher Wren's. But he was also a pagan and had built them on grave sites throughout London. So they form the shape, these five form the shape of a pentacle. It was a very powerful book and quite scary. And Leon Kossoff, the painter, must have been absolutely thunderstruck by this book, because he left his home, which he very rarely does, and went and found this church, Christ Church, in the East End of London, and started painting it obsessively.
What impact has the internet had on artistic expression?
My need for the arts is changing, really, in my... Well, it could only change in my own lifetime, couldn't it? It's the only lifetime I'm aware of.
Why are infomercials compelling to so many people?
It doesn't really leave much room for personalized images.
Can you explain Cubism?
It's an experience of a kind, but it certainly isn't an aesthetic one. I mean, they really were unique at one time. And the painting, people used to go and stand next to a painting, thinking they'll get culturally more kind of aesthetic.
Is there a difference between commercial art and so-called non-profit art?
I didn't know there was such a thing. Experiences, I think...
Mustard or ketchup?
When you're watching a band, I mean, you're taking into... There's no room left for your imagination to work. I think that's really the biggest of the people on the stage. And you take it for granted that those buildings are back in the time that they were built in. They're not in the 21st century. And you kind of think that those buildings are thinking back then as well.
Take me again and again.
When you read a book, or see a movie, or go to the theatre, go and see an art show, do you experience those things in musical terms?
And you get 5 or 6 seconds in front of each painting. I think of them now much more as symbols, as a form of vocabulary. That's because of the proliferation of all of them. So much more music. There's so much more visual and tactile things. I think it's always been like that over here. You go on those big, huge trips around
black, white, or grey.
I think they don't have a uniqueness. There's no room left for your imagination.
Do buildings have personalities?
Well, again, it's us always. It's always us, isn't it?
We give buildings personalities, like we give paintings power.
Imaginary little visions. I'm not really as convinced the magical, iconic
manna from heaven kind of
thoughts on those things have changed quite a lot over the last 15 or 20 years. I don't have one.
I think they don't have the...
Do you believe in the supernatural?
I don't think that.
Some of them are built like buildings. We have buildings that stand in for the personification of something or other,
of live music,
which is fine. I don't mind that.
Are you cold?
Imaginary little visions. Oh, we're going into the woods tomorrow. Or is entertainment, which is... I don't mind that. I think... Where are we? Help me off this question. Without being quite so... Oh, it's so terribly sad. since we started talking about the supernatural. That's the sound of death. That's what it sounds like when you're dead. Doors opening.